You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another Brooklyn Nets episode of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and this is the first of 3 shows that you're going to get today. In the afternoon, you will get the Jacob Valk Show as per usual. It's probably going to be solely dedicated to whatever trades are made in advance of today's NHL trade deadline. Although, as it stands right now, there haven't been that many trades made since Friday. We've only had Cody Eakin, so you may get some other sports there also. And in the evening, you will get a grade on what the New York Islanders did this trade deadline season. As it stands right now, it's not a good grade, but a million things can change. As promised on Friday, here is the interview that I did with a very, very well-respected physical therapist. You are listening to The Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and I am fortunate enough to be talking to Dr. Pamela Morrison Wiles, a longtime physical therapist who specializes in orthopedics, sports medicine, and pelvic health. Dr. Wiles, welcome. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, my pleasure. So, the big news surrounding the Brooklyn Nets is Kyrie Irving undergoing arthroscopic surgery on his right shoulder. Before we get into the surgery, what can you tell us about shoulder impingement and bursitis?
It can be extremely painful. It can, the swelling that occurs in the joint space can really limit the player's range of motion, especially those that have to do extenuating range of motion. Professional players really need a lot of external rotation motion. And so this is one of the capsular patterns of the shoulder joint, which means that they usually lack the ability to flex or raise their arm, abduct or bring it out to the side, and also externally rotate. And so when those patterns of movement are limited, they're very much unable to continue with their sports activities. And so when there is impingement syndrome, it means that there's some kind of swelling that is occurring and something is getting impinged in the joint space. And many times that can be a bursa, which is a fluid-filled sac that allows for smooth movement of the joint. So that could be one of the limiting factors for the sports players.
All right. So he tried to get it treated with a cortisone shot, but evidently it wore off. Now, obviously, I don't know as much about medicine as you do, but cortisone shots don't treat anything. They're just a masking agent, right?
That's an interesting point. I wouldn't say a masking agent. The cortisone does help to decrease swelling. And so if there is substantial swelling in the joint, cortisone injection can help along with physical therapy. Usually it goes hand in hand. They do a cortisone injection and send the player right to physical therapy. And a lot of times the cortisone injection is done in a series of 3.
That's really interesting. So Kyrie is now getting arthroscopic surgery on his right shoulder. That's his shooting shoulder. What exactly does that mean that the doctors are going to be doing?
Well, a lot of times when there is an impingement syndrome, there's also a rotator cuff tear. And it could be that they're going in to repair the rotator cuff tear, or they're going into the joint to decompress whatever's being impinged.
All right. So we know that he's going to be out indefinitely. So he's out for this year. We know that. When can we expect Kyrie to come back?
I guess that's all according to how the physical therapy goes. I find a year to be extensive, and it leads me to believe that there may be more damage in the joint than they're saying. But hopefully the player will be back before the year. A lot of times they're doing very intensive physical therapy. They're doing rehab twice a day, and that will usually get the player back to play faster.
Okay. All right. So we know that there's a pretty strong chance that the Nets season is going to be over in April. I'd be surprised if they made it out of the first round. So I assume 2 months is way too quick for him to come back from this, but their season will start back up in October. Can he be back in October?
Probably not. A lot of times after the surgery, there's also very limited range of motion, very limited strength, and the player is on decreased abilities to perform even their daily functional activities. And so the initial rehab phase, they're predominantly doing modalities, and modalities are things like ice, electrical stimulation, ultrasound. Many times the player is in some kind of supportive sleeve where the arm could be not lacking range of motion, but told to limit their range of motion by being in some kind of supportive sleeve.
That makes sense. But when Kyrie fully recovers from this injury, will we see the Kyrie of old, or is he going to be limited in some way, shape, or form?
Well, the physician, I'm sure, is excellent and will perform a fantastic repair on the shoulder, and so I would expect that he would return to play just back to his normal at some point. He's in for a little bit of rehabilitation and physical therapy on that shoulder, certainly.
Yeah, no question about that. Obviously, we know about Kevin Durant and his Achilles injury. I'm not going to go too far into that. We all know he's out for the year. That's perfectly fine. You know, this was a maintenance year for him anyway. It's a maintenance year for Kyrie Irving. But let me ask you this. Kyrie had a cortisone shot, and it seemed like he was playing through pain. In fact, the Nets said that he was playing through pain. With this being a maintenance year, would you have advised him to play through pain, or would you have advised him to shut it down a little early?
That's interesting. That call is the call of the physician, not necessarily the physical therapist, but sometimes they create a team, and the team sits and discusses whether or not he should return to play. There's also an athletic trainer that's usually on the team that's giving input to the physician. I think that they also go based on feedback from the player, and a lot of times the player does not want to miss a game. And so they really do the cortisone injection as a quick Band-Aid on the joint or the injury that gives them the ability to play at least some portion of the game and then see how the player does. So sometimes it's just a wait-and-see approach to the patient.
All right, that sounds good. Doc, I want to thank you very much for your time. Again, this has been Dr. Pamela Morrison Wiles, a longtime physical therapist who specializes in orthopedics, sports medicine, and pelvic health. Doc, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Jacob. Take care.
All right. That was Dr. Pamela Morrison Wiles. I'll see you for the outro. Thank you for the plug, Jacob from the past. It does mean a lot. What you should take from that interview is that it's not a guarantee that Kyrie Irving is going to be back come opening day next year. He'll certainly shoot for it. I don't think it's something that should be ruled out, but it is not a guarantee. Durant, in all likelihood, is probably a guarantee. Again, you never say never, but I'd be surprised if he didn't play opening day. Dr. Wiles did say that she does expect to see him back before this calendar year is over, thank God. So we can probably look to November, December at the latest for Kyrie to come back. Quite honestly, I have no problem with that. Even without Kyrie, with Kevin Durant there, the Nets will be in the playoffs, and when Kyrie comes back, you will see the Nets play better than ever. Yeah, it stinks that you're not going to get a lot of time to gel, but ultimately these guys are going to have to figure it out quickly. It's something that Kenny Atkinson is going to have to prepare them for, and ultimately it's a little scary. There's no question about that, but I fully expect this team to play at 100% when Kyrie comes back, and there is no stopping this team, assuming everyone's 100%. There's no stopping this team next year from winning an NBA championship. Hope you enjoyed it. 2 shows coming later today. The Jacob Valk Show as per usual, and a New York Islanders grade on what they did at the deadline. I will include Andy Green in that. Until next time, I am Jacob Valk saying that Roger Maris should have been a zinc miner.